water. Water and fire is like Chochmah and Bina. Water is Chochmah, and fire is Bina. Water is the Mayach, and the Bina is the Leiv. The Bina is the Leiv, the heart. The Mayach is a cold organ. You ever meet a cold Litvak, you know what I mean. And you ever meet a Haisa Chassid, he's all full of Lasavas, he's fired up, he's electricity, excitement. At the end of Golus, Moshe was Megala to Rabbi Shimon, really to Rabbi Kiva. You know, when Moshe Benu went up to get to the Torah, on the way up he stopped off and upstairs, Shemayim, and he decided to see, to listen into a shir. He went into the Heichel of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was giving a drasha, and they moved Moshe Rabbeinu to the 8th row. They didn't let him get closer. And listening to the drashas, Rabbi Akiva was Torah on the Tagim, Tilatim Shalom. Each tag of the letters of the Torah, he gave drashas on many halachas of each tag, separating what that means. And Moshe felt a little bit a chalish hadas, like they say in English. He felt, a little subdued that he was not in the front and he was giving this tremendous drasha. But then someone asked a question, and Rabbi Akiva said, "Oh, we know that halach lo Moshe Sinai." So when Moshe felt bad, but then he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he got upstairs, he got all the way up. He said, "HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why you want to give the Torah through me? You got Rabbi Akiva." He said, "No, Rabbi Akiva is for a separate topic. He'll be for the end of the Golus. Right now, you give over the Torah." And the Torah has 50 gates. Nun Shari Bina were given over to Moshe Rabbeinu when he got the Torah. 50 gates of Torah. And when he came down from the mountain, Moshe Rabbeinu saw what was going on with the Egel, and he broke the luchos. And at that point, it says Lech Reid, go down. He had to go down. Lech Reid. Lech is the gematria 50. Go down from the 50. He lost the 50th gate. I think there's a book called The 50th Gate. Right? Someone wrote a book on 50th gate. The 50th gate Moshe Rabbeinu lost. He got it by Har Sinai. It was in the Luchos Rishonos. When he broke the Luchos, bye-bye, those oases flew away. Those oases are the Shar HaChamishim. Who got that 50th gate? Rabbi Akiva. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Why do you give the Torah to me? Give it to Rabbi Akiva. But Hashem said, I have a cheshbon. That 50th gate was given over to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his Talmud. Rabbi Akiva's Talmud, after in the Sviva of Lag Maimer, there were 5 Talmidim left. 5 Talmidim that he gave smicha and
there were 5 new Talmidim or 5 Talmidim left?
New Talmidim.
I always thought they were new, but lately somebody said there were 5 left.
Doesn't say if they were part of it. They said they were new Talmidim.
I always thought they were new.
Because usually they're talking about pairs, charusas.
There's also some other which ones. There's a machlex on the last one. But anyway, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, and he was given over. And Rashbi says, I am Chumash Chumaisai of the Torah of my Rebbe. That means the 50th. 50th of. He was really Rabbi Akiva was the highest madrega. However, Rabbi Akiva didn't have the ability to give over this limud in a way that should be disguised. That was given over to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. His neshama came from a level of makiv where he was able to give over this Torah in a hidden way. Hashem did not want to reveal the Torah's aside for that generation. It was left for our generation, for the end of Golus. And that Shah Chamishim is found in the Zohar and the Sifrei Kabbalah. Moshe at the end of his life, before he passed away, got back the Shah Nun. It says when he passed away, he went to Har Navai, Nun Boy. In there was the Shah Nun. So before he left this world, he got back his Shah Nun. So Moshe is all set. But Moshe left Rashbi with the Shah Nun and the Torah that he wrote, hidden away for 1,000 years, 1,200 years, that was revealed, but it was still a sealed book till Rizal came in the 1500s and was explained the Sodas of the Zohar. The Sfardim to this day, many have a Kabbalah not to learn Zohar Be'iyun before learning all Kisvei Arizal. They read the Zohar, but to learn it be'ian, you can't know one word from the next or what's going on at all without learning the Kisvei Avi. That's the Kabbalah that we have, and most follow that way. A person could do Zohar be'ian from today to tomorrow, but doesn't know the Kisvei Avi. Now, Kisvei Avi you don't know if you don't know the Rishash, because the Kisvei Avi also was hidden. But as the years go on, as we get closer to Gula, it becomes more and more open. And we always use the marshal of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. We get close to the end, the light comes up. So this Torah, the Torah of the Rashbi, which was revealed, began on Lag B'Omer, the Gila of Pnimis Torah, was for the end of Golus. That's why we see the celebration of Lag B'Omer. Someone said he went last week to Borough Park. I grew up in Borough. I was born in Borough Park. There were no bonfires in Borough Park except one place. Not even when I was born, when I was a teenager, maybe 13, 12, when the Boston Rebbe moved in, and he was originally from Israel, he set up a bonfire, the first one in the entire Borough Park. But now,
That was
now
outdoors then, or indoors? A small indoor thing?
I don't remember. I can't remember that. You don't go back a long time. But there was a bonfire. Maybe it was in the side. I think it was in the front, in the garbage can.
His son always did it in the shul.
What?
His son always did it in the shul.
Which one? Which son?
The bar.
Ram?
Yeah.
I know Ram or maybe it's.
The one from Bar Park.
They were both in Borough Park. But,
But
the one afterward, the one who was in.
because one who took over in Bar Park.
Oh yeah, right. Oh, he kept it, and then I guess it was in the shoe. In any case, now it's all over. Same thing with the limit is all over. Why? Because the Moshe knew that as the Golos for the Mayim, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah Nigla, was the main occupation of Klal Yisrael for the 1500 years. The time of Mishnah, Rabbi Kiva's Rabbeinu HaKadosh was the time also Rabbi Kiva, and he wrote the Torah Nigla. And Rashbi wrote the Torah Nigla, Talmidim of the Rabbi Kiva. He was Megala, the Nigla the Torah through the Shisha the Mishnah, and Rashbi was Megala the Pnimis the Torah. That's for the end of Golos, because Moshe knew that as years go on, further and further away from our Sinai, with fewer Gedolim, and then the Golos gets darker and darker. The only way to get out of the Golos and to save us at the end is through Pnimis Torah. That's why the Torah ends with a Lamed and begins with a Beis, Leiv. At this point, the Iker is to bring out the Leiv. That's how we fight and combat the challenges we have today. From learning alone, it's not enough. Although the same, the Leiv you're also going to get from learning, but learning, you have to learn things that bring out the Leiv. And that's why the Baal Shem came, and subsequently this whole Torah becomes a whole big thing. And that's why we're learning Torah Hasidus, and that's now going to take us into Perek Vav, which is really the whole topic of the Rashbi.
So the next Kufa is considered starting with Baal Shem Tov?
After the Rishash, then you had the Baal Shem Tov, you had Ramchal, you had the Gra, you had various different groups that were revealing in different ways the Torah of the Arizal. Baal Shem Tov, one part, you had Ramchal in Italy, you had the Or Chaim HaKadosh in Eretz Yisrael. Each one of these had opened up the Torah to people, to the Hamoinam, to the regular people.
Ramchal was the same. I thought Ramchal was earlier, it wasn't?
No, it was earlier than the Gra, but it was at the same time.
The Or Chaim HaKadosh?
Chaim HaKadosh was in Eretz Yisrael, time of the Baal Shem
Also
Tov.
the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Time of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem's brother-in-law learned by it, went to see the Or Chaim HaKadosh. I don't know if he made it, it was nipped already. Anyway, so we get to Perek Chof. This Perek is for you, Simcha. Because this Perek, and the next, we did 25 chapters. And we learned how, the short way and long way, how to serve Hashem and not have any challenges, any problems. So I want to know, since we learned 2 weeks ago, we did the long way and the short way, has everything been going smooth for everybody since then? Everybody Layla since that last class? So there's going to be a bombshell over here. that we're going to learn. That's going to tell us that this whole 25 chapters that we learned till now is worthless unless we have one commodity. Now, to begin, the Talmidei Baal Shem, originally, they weren't called Hasidim. They were called Gefreilichas. Gefreilichas in Yiddish, which means the happy guys. And
is that a pejorative, or is that someone saying?
Yeah, other pejorative.
what did we say?
No, from the maskilim, like is that?
The maskil, the mistagdim called them. How do we know that? We saw that the letter was written to the Tsar in Russia that this new movement is coming, and the Russians were very nervous about any new movement. They wanted to be in control of everything, and they complained to the Tsar that the Baal Shem, the Baal Tanya, was starting a new religion. They davening late. They're focusing on davening more than learning. And one of the things it says in the letter, which they now have, they found the letter in the archives in Russia. They translated from Russian. The complaint that ended up arresting the Baal Tanya from that they complained.
They actually found that.
Yes, they have it. You could. I could look it up. I was going to do it tonight. I didn't have time. Yes, and it says there one of the things that so it's got davening late. The focus not on learning as much as on davening, and one of the important things was that they are happy.
Which one did the Tsar have problems with?
All that. And happiness is not a Jewish trait.
Well, the Tsar was definitely better than communism.
Well, the happiness is not a Jewish trait. They brought a raya. It says that in Golos, it says Osi L'mali Tzchok B'Olam Hazeh. You're not allowed to be happy we're in Golos. So this is a new religion. They go against the whole thing, and they gave them the name the Gefreilichas. That was the description of.
It was a negative.
Yeah, they were using it to complain that eventually it turned to the Hasidim. They were mistaken.
This
They
is like
became
a
Hasidim.
complaint to the Tsar?
Yes.
Why wouldn't the Tsar be happy that they're going against their own thing?
No, he was unhappy that because he had control of
Kept
it.
organized.
They were very nervous about any new thing. They wanted to have full control, tight control, control over the Jewish community. Now some breakaway. If they're going to break away from their brothers and sisters, they're going to break away from the Tsar. He was very nervous about that. That's why he arrested Baal Tanya. But that was the name given.
So like viscerally likes
And
company.
ChatGPT has everything you need to know about this. The letter of the Tsar Paul
Yes.
I,
Oh,
and talked about the letter accused a Hasidic movement of challenging Christians.
I don't believe it.
And potentially undermining.
He was a
acceptance
mean
of the
person,
order.
Paul.
It brings Reb Shmuel, Zalman Liadi,
Nasty, nasty person.
okay, wow. Please share that with us. They translate it to English too. But one of the why I'm only bringing it out because the point about this happiness. We know, of course, by Hasidus is nothing worse than sadness. The Kalina said that although sadness is not something in Avera that you'll find in the Torah, but the depths that it can bring to, no Avera in the Torah can bring you as low as what sadness does. It brings one to the Gehenna. Now, really, it's a very difficult. So, Baal Tanya tells in this chapter that if we don't have this simcha, we'll see, understand what simcha means. It doesn't mean just dancing around. We'll see what the real meaning of simcha means. Then all the aces he gave till now, the derech harucha, derech Torah, will not work. There's a disclaimer over here. Everything I said from the beginning of the book till now, these 25 chapters that we went through, how easy it is, that only works if you have simcha. We'll see with the miniyas, why doesn't it work? Why didn't it work from 2 weeks ago to now? What's holding back? And l'chayra also, we have a basic question. If you ask most people, where do they feel more spiritual? Do they feel more spiritual on Yom Kippur, when everyone is serious and contemplating on their affairs and what they're lacking, need to do? Or on Purim, when they're drinking and happy?
How far is Perek?
What?
Perek.
How far is Yom Kippur?
So Zoya says that Purim is Kippurim. Kippurim, it's not as great as Purim. Yom Kippur is only like Purim. It means Purim is a high madrega.
Yeah.
Similarly, you find, if you ask somebody at a wedding, would they feel most connected, most affected by the chuppah? but really by the dancing it's supposed to be. So there's a little bit of a reconciliation we have to make. On the one hand, we're learning that simcha is a very important thing. On the other hand, we feel closer to Hashem when we're in a serious state than when we're in a jolly state.
Well, how do we define simcha? I would say a chuppah it's intense, but it's still simcha.
Well,
It's still a very happy moment of it.
Especially for the parents.
well, it depends.
So I'm saying, how is simcha
The parents
defined?
have to pay the bills.
Is simcha like content and happy, or is
That's
it
a
joyous? Or is it...
So we're going to learn what it means. So we're going to learn over here that what's mean b'simcha or not. So let's look at the symptoms of what problems are there that could hold back our derech ruach from working. This is a sefer manual in Avodas Hashem. It doesn't tell us to be serve Hashem. It tells us how. So we got certain prescriptions what we need to do, but the Baal Tanya is going to teach us now there's certain problems that are going to hold it back. You got to know about them. There's certain symptoms. The key symptoms, the key problems, is laziness or timtum alev, heaviness, a laziness. A person is lazy. You can give him all the eitzes in the world. He's not going to win the Yetzer Hara. And the kfedus is a heaviness of the heart that doesn't let us. That if you pull away, empty out the air from the balloon, then you're going to fail in the Avodas Hashem. Even if you follow all the instructions that I got till now, you think from today to tomorrow that it won't work. We have to address this in you. What causes laziness? What causes kfedus? What causes these things? And because we have to go to the shorish of the symptom. Laziness is only a symptom. The cause of it is sadness. And
what are the actions of laziness and heaviness? I mean,
so
they're
we're
words.
going to go into details now. There's going to be 9 prokim that the Baal Tanya is going to give to tell us how to dispel all the things that hold us back from serving Hashem b'simcha. Both physical, where we have b'nei chayim, zani, children, we're shidduchim, raising children, parnasa, health issues, physical things that we have to deal with in the world. How do we deal with that in a state where we could be b'simcha, which shouldn't make us sad? And then spiritual sadness, which sounds like a good thing. Think about we all everyone has things that they have to correct or fix, and when they think about the level that they're holding where they could be, they feel sad. That also has to be dispelled. So that's why we were going to go into in great detail to teach us how to get rid of all the headaches that we have in life, and use it to be b'simcha tamid. So, the Yetzer Hara knows, he tries. We know mitzvah liyas b'simcha tamid, Nachman's thing. But Yetzer Hara, and really that's the key to Kol Torah Kula. If you have simcha, you can do everything. With sadness, you can't get anywhere. And that's his goal. Yetzer Hara's goal is to make us sad, make us depressed, and that makes us lazy. Then we have no chesed, no interest to go further. And
that's where we started the Tanya, right? That somebody shouldn't view themselves as.
That's right.
Because then that's going to bring to.
Exactly. So the $1 million question is, how do we stay b'simcha tamid with all the things that we have in life? That's where we're going to now. And so we're going to learn that we have to dispel the things that take us away from happiness, and then automatically it will come up. So we're going to break them in 2 categories. Break issues which affect our happiness in physical things in life, as you mentioned, b'nei chayim izanei, children, sustenance, and health, and benam l'chaveru things, relationships with other people. And then there's spiritual sadness, where in terms of our relationship with Hashem, where we're not satisfied with how we're davening, learning, performing the mitzvahs, where we are in life, if we're accomplishing whatever, that also causes sadness. All of that has to be dispelled, and the question is, there a place for any of it? So let's start Perek Chavav over here. This is a public disclaimer that the Baal Tanya is telling us that ki kamoi shenitzachon lenatzech davar gashmi. Just like when you want to overcome something in the physical sense, you're going to shnei anoshim hamasavkim zeh zeh, lapel zeh zeh, 2 wrestlers. If you ever go to a wrestling match, I never went to one, but I assume this is how it works. הנה אחד הוא עצוס וכבדוס, ינוסח בקל ויפול, גם הוא גיבור יוסף מחברי. The way it works is, one guy could be stronger than another. I wouldn't say Reuben and Shimon, let me say Joe and Charlie. If Joe is stronger than Charlie, but he's tired and lazy, he's going to lose the battle no matter what. Because it will not enable him to bring out the chaychas that he has. That's what Aslus causes. That holds back from his chaychas. And so too, when we want to overcome the Yetzer Hara, and we follow the structure of the Baal Tanya, the long way through his bonus, the short way, realizing that we have that connection, we're ready to give our life up for everything. And in addition to that, when we have a challenge with the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Hara wants to tell us to do something wrong. And we know that inherently we have a Chelik Hashem that lets us override that. And we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oizeloi, if you want to go the right way, Hashem will help you. So we have Hashem's help behind us. And we have another thing that we have the Teva Hashem made in the struggle of Tov and Ra, B'chata B'chayim, that Yisur Ha'or Min HaChoshech, which we'll see later on, that a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. So if you have a fight between light and darkness, you open up the light, the darkness go away. This should be a non-issue. If a person just ignites, turns up his Yetzer Tov, you should easily overcome the Yetzer Hara. Says the Tanya, yes, except if the guy is not happy, the guy is sad, the guy is lazy, depressed, and down, all this will not help. Not Hashem Oizelai, not Hashem in his backing him, not with the Teva that removes the Choshech, not the Derech Harucha, not the Ksar, none of that is going to work. Because when a person's boss is request, he efshel and natzcha, he's telling you right up the front. If a guy is sad, he will not be able the atzos v'kfedus, and that causes him to have the effect of sadness, brings to laziness and heaviness. He doesn't want to get out of bed. He doesn't have any interest in it. When it comes out from Matzah Kiyim bezrizus the only way to serve Hashem properly is with simcha, which causes rizus, excitement and energy, and the energy brings out your kochos. Then you can easily overcome the Yetzer Hara with all the eitzes that we gave before, that the Tanya gave earlier. Yep. Yes.
Which would you recommend would be better? To be happier and do less mitzvos, or more sad but do more mitzvos?
Happier, always
Yeah.
happy. Sadness is there's no place for sadness. We're going to see. The only one time there's difference between there's three terms. There's atzvus, sadness. There's no place for sadness at all. There's simcha. You have to always be b'simcha. Then something called merivus, bitterness. There's times that you need that.
Like Avelis.
What?
Like Avelis?
Like if I was more often, every night, before we go to sleep at night, we make a cheshbon and nefesh. We have to always make a cheshbon and nefesh, but not all the time. Once a day. That's it. Maybe in Tachnan also. We think about the things which we're short, but right afterwards we have to turn it to simple. We'll see how to do that. Only in specific times are we allowed to be Marias, with the condition that right after it turns, because for the Marias, we'll see how it works. Marias. Let's go. I'm moving ahead of the thing, so we'd rather just stay on track right now. For the time being right now, we're learning that in order to utilize all the tools we've learned in serving Hashem, we have to have an attitude of simcha, meaning we can't have that atzvus, that sadness. Now, everyone should jump and say, what do you mean? It says, it's brought down, there's a pasuk in Mishlei, it says, in all sadness, there's some benefit of it.
Just like Kolsman Ba'ez.
Yeah, but it says, B'chol Eitzav, specifically, Chol Eitzav Yeh Moiser. In every sadness, even in sadness, there's a benefit. So, Pirish, Sheyeh Eitzav Yisrael Malam is that. We see that it means there's some benefit in having sadness. So Tanya said, no, Adrabah. Milosha zeh mashma she'etzev mitzad atzmo yebay malo. Sadness on its own has no attribute, no benefit, not at all. Only from it, you come from it, and it can lead you to a chazon. It in itself is bad, but it could lead you because it could slip you into meriyus, and that could move you into simcha. So, if it's done properly, and it's only when your sadness is from spiritual things, not physical things. Physical things, there's no benefit at all. It won't bring to simcha. Only from that you have to get rid of totally. But if you're depressed with spiritual depression, there is some benefit, and there's a toelis in it if you know how to utilize it and turn it around, which we can learn how to do. It has no mala on its own. How? After that, Atzus Lita Mizumanim, specific times only, like a Krishna Hamita, or Yom Kippur, or Zmani Avelis, or certain times Alavai Noizer, not even on Avelis. Only times when you're sad and depressed from Avelis. B'mar Nafshay V'leiv Nishbar. And then we need that Atzus for that period of time. There's only one purpose. Everything Hashem made everything for a reason. If there's no benefit for Atzus, then wonder why Hashem created for. Even the Yetzer Hara has a toyelas. We say in the Al-Chetz, Shechutov Necho B'Yetzer Hara, one of the Al-Chetz. Why would we say something like that? All the Chetz that in the Yetzer Hara. Because really the Yetzer Hara is useful, and we need Yetzer Hara. In fact, B'chol Levav, it's mitzvah say, to use the Yetzer Hara and make it into an Eved Hashem. Because he has a lot stronger power than the Yetzer Tov. He's more powerful. He's like Behemoth versus an Adam. A Behemoth is much stronger than the Adam. We want to utilize the Yetzer Hara is really the drive, the cheshek. His cheshek is standard for Tavzam. We've turned that cheshek, that yearning, that shuka, for spiritual things. Oh, then it's really powerful. So we want to use the Yetzer Hara. And similarly, Eitzav, this sadness, there is one place where it tells with sadness, only certain specific times, and with the condition. Only if the sadness comes from Averis. And then how does it work there? When the Okay, let me stop here and explain. The person does an Avera, it makes a mesech, it makes a barrier between himself and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every Avera is causing a cloud. So if he wants to reconnect afterwards to Hashem, he's got a problem. There's already an interference. His Avera is an interference. How do you break that? How do you break that cloud? How do you break that interference? You reconnect to Hashem. For that, you need the Leiv Nishma. There's Ein Davar Shalom K'Leiv Nishma. One of the tzaddikim would say, there's nothing more complete than a broken heart. With a broken heart, that opens up, that breaks away all the masachim, all the barriers and the limitations that were created. That Ruach HaTumah, when it talks about Ruach HaTumah, the Averis make a Ruach HaTumah. They make a cloud around us. And then we can't serve Hashem properly. Everything's matumtum, everything is hidden, everything is hard. We want to break away, and we need to break it away. Sometimes when you need a fight, you have to fight Minei Ubei. You have to use the tools of the enemy. So here we use the sadness. You have to, it hits us in the heart, and that breaks a Ruach Nishbar or Leiv Nishbar. That breaks away the Leiv Nishbar. And after that comes a tremendous simcha. So if a person does vidui at night properly in his Krisha Shalamita, we'll see then after he does his Cheshbon Nefesh, he has to end up in a tremendous simcha. Okay, now that he removed that mesach, now he's able to serve Hashem directly without that blockage. That blockage was just removed. The simcha that comes after the Eitzav of Averis. So there's a time and place, but not always. The Baal Tanya can tell you, if you're in the middle of work and you all of a sudden feel bad about your Averis, There's no way in the world that that's not coming from the Yetzer Hara, and ignore it. Because that's not the time and place for it. When you're in Yom Kippur, or you're in Tachnun, or a night of Krish Shalmita, when you're supposed to make a Cheshbon Nefesh, then it's appropriate to think about things that we need to fix up, and then we utilize the sadness in a more review sticker format to break the mess up. V'zeh tam pashut l'tikkun Arizal lo mizbeach l'tikkun chatzos kodem alimud. The limud b'simcha mitzvah sabo acha hotzev. Since tikkun chatzos, krish shalmit and tikkun chatzos are both times when we're allowed to contemplate on our lackings individually, which is the krish shalmita, or the lackings of Al Yisrael and the Golas in general, the lack of Shemaim in the world, which is by Tikkun Chatzos. So, but in the Tikkun Chatzos that Arizal was Masakin, at the end it has this pasuk in there. Shiva Zanjecho, it says Dashmeni Zosim Simcha, because right after Chatzos, Tikkun Chatzos, you're supposed to go learn. And you have to learn B'Simcha. So if to get out of our mariwas, even though we're being sitting down and crying over the Churban Beis Hamikdash, we have to turn it into simcha afterwards. That breaks away the mess, and then we can learn be simcha and be ahava. Talking about mentioning Tikkun Chatzos, an hour and a half to that. 10 to 1. So the Rebbe Rebbe would do Tikkun Chatzos. Sometimes spend 4 or 5 hours crying, sitting on the ground. I didn't know if I ever told you the story, but I can say it again. It's over a year, probably.
It's not the Torah.
What?
The story's a half a
The
year.
Torah.
No, it's not different. It's a story. I'm moving to the
So
story.
it's a half a year.
Half years for a joke, 1 year for the story, and 5 minutes for the Batar. So, this is a story from Volvi Herman, electrician. You know Volvi Herman, anybody? Volvi's father, what happened with him? What? Yeah. So his father was the governor of the Rebbe Rebbe. And the Rebbe Rebbe had Tikkun Chatzos. Know about Tikkun Chatzos? He had like in this big room here, in his living room, he had a little closet built in the middle. That was the Chatzos closet. Anybody heard the story? Well, it's a good story. It's a true story. And he would go in there, in this closet. He would sit on the ground, put sackcloth on his head, put sackcloth on his body, pour ashes on his head, ashes from the matzah bakery. He just poured it on, ashes, lit candles on the bottom, and sit, cry there, sob and cry for 4 or 5 hours every night.
Closet.
What? In the tzimmer, the chatzos tzimmer. But there's a rule in the Rebbe's house that when the Rebbe goes to say Tikkun Chatzos, no one goes into the living room. But that's off limits when he's in his tzimmer. And they're all out. Everyone is outside in other rooms, whatever. One day, Volvi was there. His father was the gabbai. And Volvi said, "I smell smoke." And they said, something's burning. So he said, it looks like it's coming from the room, from the Rebbe's room. So Volvi's father said, we can't go in. The Rebbe's in the tzimmer. So Volvi said, listen, I got to go in. I smell a fire. He's not a soul member. So he opens the door to the living room, and he sees underneath the door of the closet, there's smoke coming out. He opens the door, the Rebbe was on fire, because the Rebbe was sitting on the ground, and the can, he had a lot of candles he lit on the ground, and it caught his clothing. So Volvi took the Rebbe wasn't there, he was in a different world. He took the Rebbe, did a fireman's roll. You know a fireman's roll? You take the guy, and you roll and smother out the fire. He lied the Rebbe flat, rolled him a few times, and he smothered the fire from the clothing, sat the Rebbe up, slid him back into the closet. Look at the Rebbe's face. The Rebbe was not there. He was not there. He was in Shemayim. His body was there. He floated up, and this is the story directly.
Must have been a surprise to see his clothes a little bit burnt up, I would say.
I don't know if he saw it because he poured so much ashes on him every night that you really could see the clothing. Anyway, that's the thing. But even if you do that, afterwards he was besimcha. After he comes out of that, that's at the Merius where you could have on the Golas, but ultimately you have to. So it says over here. Sheyesh l'simcha v'zu yisroin ki yisron ha'or haba min ha'chayshach dafka. There's a special mila. What do we need the reason? Just be b'simcha. So not so easy to be b'simcha. It's a whole process. But the highest level of simcha comes haba min ha'chayshach dafka. K'mosh goes b'Yisrael ha'pasuk v'yisi sheyesh yisron chachman min ha'sichlos ki yisron ha'or min ha'chayshach. That there's a certain mila of the yisron chachma of foolishness, like Yisro Chachma over Yisro Or over Chayshach. So what does it mean? What is the Shmuel Amel telling us? There's a Yisro Or of Chayshach. Everyone knows that. So he touches up the words differently. There's only touches up words Yisro Or and Chayshach. Min HaChayshach doesn't mean over the Chayshach. That there's a mile of Or over Chayshach. It means a mile of Or that comes from the Chayshach. Min HaChayshach. When you have chayshach, and from there you take the or, that's the highest madrega or. When you have merivas and sadness, and from that you pull out, you break away the mesachim, the barriers, and then afterwards you feel the simcha that it comes after the merivas, it's a much higher madrega. Sometimes you feel that person is somehow, he feels a matzav and he feels like he's crying, he has a good cry. The person has a good cry. Afterwards, he feels like a different person. He removed all the barriers from himself. He opened up the bottle and he poured himself out. Sometimes you have to pour yourself out to Hashem, and after that you feel relieved, and now you can serve Hashem properly again. That's the Yisro Amin HaSichos, which is a good place to end. But I want to just tie that into Rav Shimon Bar Yochai also. We know that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, one of the things we do by, I don't know if you do it over here, we always used to do it in school, bows and arrows. Why do we have bows and arrows? Because we know in the Zman of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, Rashi says that there was no rainbows during that time. During the Zman of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, so the keshes is the rainbow, and bow and arrows also called keshes. That's a nice advance, but there's much more to it. Everything is much deeper. Not just because they have the same letters and the same. It's much deeper. First, the arrow has a chetz. Arrow is called chetz. That's like chatzos. First half of the Gili of the Rashbi was after chatzos, the second half of the night. First half of the night is Niglu Torah, and the second half of the night is Pnimis Torah. But much deeper than that. The way the arrow works is, if you want it to go far, you have to pull it more. The more you pull it to yourself, the more kach it has to go out. We just do it with that and let go. I would teach my grandchildren how to do it, and we got these plastic arrows and arrows. They were giving it out in California, and I was teaching the little ones how to do it. You got to pull it all the way back, pull it back towards your heart, then let go, and you see it will go across. The more you pull into your lave, that's the whole of the Rashbi, the lave. But something also on a high level. We know the rainbow. What's a rainbow? We have the shemesh, the sun, and we have the clouds, and there's a rainbow. Where does the rainbow come from? Anybody have?
Talking about physics here?
No, John. Well, we have Stam. Does the rainbow come from the light or from the cloud? It comes from. Most people say it comes from the sun that goes through the cloud.
Right.
It doesn't. It comes from the cloud. It's the light. The sun is made to the cloud, and in the cloud, the mayim in the cloud takes and refracts that plain light into Roigabib. Red, green, all the different colors of the spectrum. So the actual spectrum and the beauty of the rainbow comes from the cloud, not from the sun, not from the cloud itself. And that was the whole idea of the Rashbi, and that's the whole thing we're learning over here. That from the whole eitz of Yemoisa, from the sadness, you could bring out the toiv even from that sadness. We're going to, this is all we learned so far, just general terms. Very hard to put into practice. We will spend the next few programs taking one by one item after another, of spiritual sadness and then physical sadness. I have headaches. They don't let my kid in school. I gotta find a shidduch for my daughter. I gotta get whatever parnasa. Or I gotta have an MRI. How do we deal with all those things that they should not? How do you call it? Take away the zeal and the power, the koyches that we have, and not put us in the matzah of sadness. For that, I'll try to give us specific instructions, useful, practical, everyday instructions, how we could constantly remember Simchot Torah. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos.
it's being converted into fuel for happiness, or is it being just spelled?
It's being used for happiness. It's not for, you read L'tzorach Aliyah. That Merivus is going to be a spring, so the simcha will be much higher. But only in certain times. You can't use that any, in general not. But only those times you can use that, then it can go all the way.
I've heard that Hebrew words, letters that have reference better.
Is any good? Better than the other one? What was with the Holy Land one?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Simcha, can you send me that thing with the Russian thing? Okay. I have a safer that somewhere in my house that has the letter, Hebrew letter
You
translated.
have the whole letter. You can't do the whole
I have the whole thing at home somewhere, but it would help me for.
I'm just thinking about like what Rob was saying. That I noticed recently that like if you ever have like an infection or something that's like extremely painful, when you come out of it, even though you come just to baseline, you're not coming to like this feeling of euphoria or something, but just to escape from something that's painful feels like euphoria. You also feel like so empowered and you feel so powerful. So that notion of coming out of the Marirus, even if you're just coming to Harvest or it would be like just
look at all these
neutrality, but that neutrality feels incredible. It feels like
Anybody who comes out of a difficult matzah, or look at the hostages. Each
I
one of
was
them.
thinking like that, it feels a
Their
lot
whole
like
new life.
the feeling of being rescued from something that's it's euphoric.
I don't know what he's thinking because of my emotion, but
Ever read my September 11th story? Ever read my September 11th story? It's in the Brachos book. You have the Brachos book?
I don't think I really
It's in the back. Okay. I think about it every day. It was, my mind, my ways, is a new lease on life. Appreciation of life.
Just got out.